What if I told you the biggest lie you've been told is this? Someone else will come and fix your life. You've been waiting for the right moment, the right person, the right opportunity, but here's the harsh truth: no one is coming. The question is, what will you do when you finally realize that the only one who can save you is you? Life is suffering. That is the first thing you must understand. You will be betrayed. You will be hurt. People you love will disappoint you. Institutions will collapse. Governments will fail. And even your closest friends will not always be there when you need them most. And if you cling to the hope that someone else will swoop down and rescue you from the chaos of existence, you are already lost. No one is coming to save you, not your parents, not your friends, not the system. You are not entitled to rescue. That is the harsh truth, and it is better to confront it now than to spend your life in resentment, waiting for salvation that never arrives. But here lies the paradox. In that truth is the seed of your freedom. Because once you accept that no one is coming, you realize that you are the one who must stand up. You are the one who must shoulder responsibility. And that act of responsibility, that voluntary decision to bear the weight of your own life, will transform your existence from meaningless suffering into meaningful struggle. When you pick up the heaviest burden you can find, you do not become crushed. You become stronger, and in that strength, you become the person who could, in fact, save others. But first you must save yourself. So, stop waiting, organize your life, speak the truth even when it terrifies you. Confront the chaos, step into it willingly, and carve order out of it. You will never be free by being rescued. You will be free when you decide to take responsibility for everything you can, and carry it with courage. Because the harsh truth is this: no one is coming to save you, and the liberating truth is this: you don't need them to. Would you like me to expand this into a 10-12 minute full speech script like for a motivational lecture? Or keep it at this impactful 3-4 minute version? Radical responsibility begins with an honest look at your life as it is right now. Every human being is confronted with suffering, disappointment, and limitation. It is not a choice whether or not these things will come. It is only a matter of how you will respond. Many people fall into the trap of imagining that their problems are primarily caused by others, by their parents, by their employers, by society, by corrupt institutions, or by fate itself. While all of these factors play a role, the harsh truth remains that waiting for someone else to fix your problems is a recipe for stagnation and despair. The recognition that your life is your responsibility, regardless of circumstance, is the foundation of transformation. When you accept that the direction of your existence rests on your shoulders, you stop wasting energy blaming forces beyond your control, and you begin to invest energy where it matters, in yourself. Taking radical responsibility does not mean denying that injustice, misfortune, or tragedy exist. Of course they do. People are betrayed, abused, and abandoned. Life is not fair, and there is no guarantee of justice. Yet, even in the face of this, what you choose to do next belongs to you. You cannot control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. That response is everything, because it determines whether you grow bitter and paralyzed, or whether you adapt, improve, and rise above the suffering. The refusal to take responsibility leaves you vulnerable, because it ties your well-being to external conditions you cannot master. Responsibility, on the other hand, centers your power back into your own hands. It forces you to stand up and face the chaos directly, rather than hide behind excuses. Think of how easy it is to live as though you are a victim. It relieves you, temporarily, of the obligation to act. If you believe that your unhappiness is the fault of others, you can justify your weakness. but in the long term, this avoidance eats away at you. It corrodes your character, because deep down you know that no matter how much the world wronged you, you still had choices that you refused to make. Radical responsibility is not a burden designed to crush you. It is an invitation to reclaim your dignity. By saying, I will take ownership of my actions, my habits, my discipline, my words, my commitments, you transform yourself into someone capable of navigating hardship without collapsing. This begins with the smallest of things. You wake up in the morning and your bed is unmade. That is your responsibility. Your room is in chaos, clutter piled in the corners, clothes unwashed. That is your responsibility. Your words are careless, wounding others and undermining your own integrity. That is your responsibility. Every action you neglect compounds into disorder, and every action you take compounds into strength. Radical responsibility demands that you stop waiting for rescue in the trivial matters of life, because if you cannot manage the small, you will never endure the great tragedies when they arrive. To embrace this principle is to begin the long, difficult, but ultimately redemptive path of becoming the kind of person who can confront suffering without collapsing under its weight. The illusion of rescue is one of the most dangerous beliefs a person can hold. From childhood, many are conditioned to think that someone will always be there to pick them up when they fall. Parents provide shelter, teachers offer guidance, and society promises protection through rules and institutions. This creates a deep-seated expectation that no matter how badly things fall apart, someone else will intervene to make everything right again. The problem with this mindset is that it does not hold true once you enter the real world. The older you become, the more you realize that those safety nets either weaken, disappear, or prove insufficient in the face of serious adversity. Believing otherwise keeps you in a state of dependency, always waiting, always hoping instead of acting. The illusion persists because it is comforting. It is easier to imagine that the government will solve your problems, that a mentor will guide you, or that friends and family will always be there to shoulder your burdens. But the harsh truth is that these external sources of help are unreliable. Governments collapse, economies fail, and even the closest relationships can break under pressure. If your strategy for survival is based on the expectation of being rescued, you set yourself up for devastation when those supports inevitably falter. That collapse is often more painful than the original hardship, because you not only face suffering, but also betrayal of your naive belief in guaranteed salvation. This illusion is especially dangerous because it breeds passivity. When you think rescue is on its way, you delay action. You wait for the perfect opportunity, the benevolent savior, the external circumstance to change. Meanwhile, time slips by, problems deepen, the mess grows larger. By the time you realize no one is coming, the weight of your neglect is far heavier than it would have been had you acted from the start. People who cling to this mindset often become resentful, blaming others for their inaction, as if life itself owes them rescue. But life does not operate according to that bargain. It demands responsibility, not dependency. There is also a moral cost to believing in rescue. If you wait for others to solve your problems, you quietly hand over your agency. You allow yourself to become small, incapable, and weak. Over time, you lose faith in your own ability to confront chaos. You cultivate helplessness, and helplessness is fertile ground for bitterness. This is why so many who wait endlessly for rescue end up angry at the world. They are angry because the world never delivered the salvation they imagined, and deep down they know they squandered their chance to rise by themselves. The only way to shatter the illusion is to confront reality directly. No one is coming. The sooner you accept this, the sooner you reclaim your strength. Rescue may come occasionally, in fleeting moments of grace, but it cannot be relied upon as a life strategy. Once you understand this, you stop wasting time waiting and start preparing yourself to act, to shoulder responsibility, and to build the resilience required to face whatever life throws at you. Life is not a straight path of comfort and order. It is a constant negotiation between chaos and stability. Chaos represents everything unpredictable, uncertain, and dangerous that confronts you in existence. It is illness, betrayal, loss, failure, and the unexpected curveballs that no amount of preparation can fully prevent. Order, on the other hand, is structure, routine, and predictability. The daily habits and systems that give life stability. Human beings are caught in the tension between these two forces, and the quality of life often depends on how well you can balance them. Too much order and life becomes stagnant, mechanical, devoid of growth. Too much chaos and life becomes unbearable, overwhelming, and destructive. The art of living is learning how to voluntarily confront chaos and transform it into order without falling into despair. When life confronts you with chaos, the immediate instinct is to hide, to retreat into safety, or to deny what is happening. This response may provide temporary relief, but it does not solve the underlying issue. In fact, it makes the chaos grow stronger because what you refuse to face multiplies in the shadows. The only way to reduce the power of chaos is to willingly face it, acknowledge its existence, and attempt to bring some form of order to it. This may be as small as confronting a difficult conversation you've avoided, or as large as rebuilding your life after tragedy. Each act of facing chaos, however small, teaches you that you are more capable than you imagined, and it expands the boundaries of your competence. Order is created through discipline, routine, and responsibility. By setting goals, managing your time, keeping promises, and maintaining structure, you carve out a space of stability in an otherwise unpredictable world. This structure becomes your foundation, something solid you can stand on when life inevitably throws chaos at you. For example, when your health fails, if you have already cultivated discipline in your habits, you are better positioned to recover. When financial hardship strikes, if you have developed order in your work ethic, you are more resilient. Order does not eliminate chaos, but it equips you to face it with strength rather than collapse. The struggle between chaos and order is not something you resolve once and for all. It is an ongoing process. Every stage of life introduces new forms of unpredictability, changing careers, raising a family, losing loved ones, or facing aging and mortality. At each stage, you must adapt, bringing order to new realms of chaos. If you resist this responsibility, you risk being swallowed by disorder. But if you willingly step forward, you grow stronger, wiser, and more capable of carrying the burdens of existence. This confrontation with chaos is not just survival, it is the path to meaning. Chaos contains the possibility of transformation. It is where new opportunities are born, where growth becomes possible. By bringing order to chaos, you don't just survive, you build a life that is purposeful and resilient, a life that can withstand the inevitable storms that come with being human. The burden of existence is unavoidable, and every human being carries it in some form. Some carry the weight of financial struggle, others the pain of broken relationships, and still others the fear of mortality or failure. The natural tendency is to look for ways to escape these burdens, to avoid them, or to hope that someone else will shoulder them on our behalf. Yet, what often goes unnoticed is that the very things we try to avoid are the same things that give our lives meaning when we face them willingly. The heaviest load you can carry is often the one that anchors your life with purpose. When you take responsibility for something difficult and commit yourself to it fully, you discover that suffering is not just something to be endured, but something that can transform you into someone stronger and more significant. It is tempting to live in the shallow end of existence, where responsibilities are minimal and pleasures are easy. At first glance, this seems like freedom, but over time, a life without burdens becomes hollow. Without responsibility, there is nothing to strive for, nothing to overcome, and nothing that requires you to stretch beyond your comfort. Meaning does not arise from doing what is easy. It arises from voluntarily carrying what is difficult. The burden of caring for a family, the discipline of pursuing a craft, or the duty of building something worthwhile are all weights that can feel crushing at times. But when you bear them willingly, they shape you into someone capable of facing suffering without collapsing under it. Consider the difference between a person who avoids responsibility and one who embraces it. The first spends life seeking shortcuts, pleasure, and rescue, always shrinking from hardship. This person may appear carefree, but beneath the surface grows resentment and emptiness, because deep down they know they are not living up to their potential. The second, who embraces burden, walks a harder path but gains strength and integrity. Carrying responsibility gives you something to aim at, something that makes the chaos of existence bearable. You stop being tossed around by circumstance because you have chosen a direction and are willing to pay the price to pursue it. This principle extends to every area of life. A parent who takes on the burden of raising children discovers both exhaustion and profound meaning. An artist who dedicates years to mastering their craft suffers countless failures but uncovers beauty and truth through persistence. A leader who accepts the weight of guiding others endures stress and criticism, but also creates order and vision that benefit many. In every case, meaning is tied to burden, not avoidance. The willingness to shoulder difficulty voluntarily transforms life from random suffering into purposeful struggle. The weight does not disappear, but it becomes a source of dignity because you chose it and you endure it with intention. The heaviest load becomes the path to becoming who you are meant to be. Self-discipline is the closest thing to salvation that a person can create for themselves. Without it, life drifts into chaos, habits decay, and potential is wasted. With it, order emerges, progress becomes possible, and even suffering takes on meaning. Discipline is not about grand gestures or dramatic breakthroughs. It is about the small, consistent actions repeated daily that build strength over time. Most people overestimate what they can do in a single day and underestimate what they can do in a year of steady, disciplined effort. When you decide to structure your behavior, to act with purpose rather than impulse, you begin to transform the very foundations of your existence. It often starts with the simplest things: waking up at a set time, making your bed, cleaning your room, managing your time, and keeping promises you make to yourself. These tasks may seem trivial, but they are acts of defiance against disorder. When you impose structure on your environment and your behavior, you reduce the chaos that constantly threatens to overwhelm you. The act of cleaning your space, for example, is not just about tidiness. It is a symbolic assertion that you can create order in at least one part of your life. That order radiates outward. Once you have managed your environment, you begin to manage your habits, your relationships, and eventually the trajectory of your future. Discipline also requires honesty. You must recognize where you are weak,
where you indulge in avoidance and where you fail to act. Many people deceive themselves by saying they will change tomorrow, or that their problems are too large to be solved with small steps. But discipline is precisely about starting small and persisting. A single honest decision made consistently reshapes character. The discipline to tell the truth even when it costs you, to work when you feel lazy, or to face fear instead of hiding from it. These are the choices that separate growth from decay. The relationship between discipline and freedom is often misunderstood. People imagine that discipline restricts freedom, but the opposite is true. Without discipline, you are enslaved by impulse, distraction, and weakness. You cannot choose freely because you are ruled by whatever temptation is in front of you. With discipline, you gain control over yourself, and that control gives you freedom to aim at what is higher. A disciplined person is not perfect, but they are capable of pursuing goals, enduring hardship, and resisting the pull of chaos. This freedom is not the absence of rules, but the mastery of them. In the long run, discipline builds resilience. Every time you act with self-control, you strengthen your capacity to endure suffering. When tragedy strikes, and it will, you are not paralyzed, because you have practiced confronting discomfort voluntarily. Discipline trains you for life's inevitable blows, so that when they arrive, you are not destroyed by them, but equipped to withstand them. It is through discipline that you forge the character necessary to turn suffering into strength and weakness into purpose. Resentment is one of the most corrosive emotions a person can carry, and it often grows in the soil of victimhood. When someone convinces themselves that they are helpless, that life has been unfair, and that rescue is owed to them, bitterness begins to take root. This bitterness poisons perception. Every success of others feels like a personal insult. Every difficulty becomes another piece of evidence that the world is conspiring against you, and every failure becomes justification for self-pity. What begins as disappointment gradually hardens into hostility toward life itself. Resentment blinds you to opportunity because instead of asking what can be done, you ask why things are not easier. It removes the possibility of growth, because growth requires responsibility, and responsibility cannot coexist with a victim mentality. Waiting to be saved nurtures weakness. The longer you delay action, the more dependent you become on external forces, and the weaker your internal strength grows. Over time, this passivity creates a cycle of frustration. You want your life to change, but you refuse to change yourself, so nothing moves forward. The stagnation becomes unbearable, and instead of confronting the truth that your choices are within your control, you lash out at others, blaming them for what you refuse to do. This cycle traps many people for years. They imagine that circumstances will eventually shift in their favor, but circumstances do not bend to wishful thinking. Only deliberate action, rooted in responsibility, breaks the cycle of helplessness. The alternative to resentment is resilience, and resilience begins with ownership. When you take responsibility for your life, you strip resentment of its power. You no longer need to envy others or rage at misfortune, because you accept that suffering is part of the human condition. By acknowledging that no one is coming to save you, you recognize that it is your responsibility to adapt, to act, and to grow stronger. This acceptance transforms your posture toward life. Instead of waiting passively, you stand upright, face reality as it is, and decide what can be done in the face of it. Resilience does not eliminate suffering, but it gives you the capacity to withstand it without collapsing into bitterness. Resilience is built by choosing to confront difficulty rather than avoid it. Each time you make this choice, you strengthen your ability to endure.
When you fail and try again, when you are hurt and still move forward, when you are disappointed and still act with integrity, you are practicing resilience.
These choices accumulate over time until they form character. The person who consistently chooses action over resentment becomes someone who cannot be easily broken, someone who has the inner resources to confront tragedy without despair. It is not easy to let go of resentment. It demands humility, because it requires admitting that your life is ultimately your responsibility. But once you step into that truth, resentment begins to lose its grip. In its place grows resilience, the quiet strength that allows you to face suffering with dignity and transform hardship into meaning. The call to action is the unavoidable conclusion once you realize that no one is coming to rescue you. If life is suffering, if chaos is inevitable, and if responsibility is yours alone, then the only rational path is to become the kind of person who can endure it. This does not mean waiting for ideal conditions, nor does it mean building a fantasy in which others take on your burdens. It means beginning where you are with whatever small amount of control you have and moving forward deliberately. The call to action is a demand from reality itself, urging you to stop hiding behind excuses and confront what lies in front of you. Every day you delay, the weight of your inaction grows heavier, and the opportunities to build strength diminish. Action is the antidote to despair, because despair feeds on stagnation. But once you begin to move, you reclaim power over your life. This call is not for comfort seekers, because action always requires sacrifice. You cannot build resilience, order, or strength without giving something up. It may be sleep, leisure, unhealthy habits, or even relationships that hold you back. Sacrifice is the price of transformation, and ignoring it keeps you trapped in mediocrity. Many people know what they should do: work harder, be honest, take responsibility, but they postpone action indefinitely, convincing themselves that tomorrow will be the day.
Tomorrow rarely comes. The call to action demands immediacy, because life is short, and every day wasted in passivity is a day you cannot recover.
The time to act is not in the distant future. It is in the present moment, when you decide to carry your burden willingly. The essence of this call is not to create a perfect life, but to become a person capable of confronting imperfection with strength. A life without suffering does not exist, but a life where you are stronger than your suffering does. When you take action, you shift your identity from someone who is helpless to someone who is capable. Each step you take reinforces that transformation. You are no longer simply reacting to life, you are shaping it. Even small victories matter, because they build momentum and confidence. Once you know you can face one challenge, you become more willing to face the next, and gradually, you become someone who can stand tall even in the face of great adversity. The call to action is also a moral demand. When you refuse to act, you not only weaken yourself, but also fail the people who rely on you. Your family, your community, and even the strangers who cross your path are affected by whether you rise to your potential or collapse into avoidance. If you cannot save yourself, you cannot help others. But when you act, when you discipline yourself and carry your responsibility, you become a source of strength, someone others can rely on. The call to action, therefore, is not only about your survival, but also about your contribution to the world. Because a person who acts with courage and responsibility does more than rescue themselves. They become a foundation that others can stand on. No one is coming to save you, and that truth may feel heavy, but it is also your freedom, because the moment you stop waiting for rescue is the moment you discover your strength. Stand up, take responsibility and carry your burden. In doing so, you will not only save yourself, you will become the kind of person who makes the world a little less chaotic for everyone else.